This is Social Leopards. I'm Bea.
And I'm Beth. A leopard is a solitary creature living in the jungle but often not seen or noticed. Are you a solitary creature trying to navigate the social jungle?
This show explores loneliness and the many ways forward. Welcome to Social Leopards.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Social Leopards. Once again, I'm Beth.
And I'm Bea. Hello.
Hey there. And today it is just us.
Yep.
And we are continuing our conversation about emotional wounds. And today our topic is
Rejection.
Rejection wounds. So I don't know how many of you know exactly what a rejection wound is, so we will ask Bea to define that for us.
Okay. This basically occurs when a child feels consistently unloved or unwanted by their caregivers, and it can lead to low self-esteem, difficulties in forming relationships, and a persistent fear of abandonment. So my personal example is my mom, who was a caregiver for us, really prioritized work above everything else, to the point that, as I was telling Beth at one time, I had chicken pox and didn't know, and I was sent to school with the chicken pox, and my mother was extremely upset when the nurse called and told her that I had to come home, which meant that she had to take a day off from work. And so I remember her being extremely angry at me. And after that, I'd say I was really worried about ever getting sick again and wouldn't tell her. So yeah, that was
Yeah, and I think that could trigger feelings as a child because you don't understand people's motives or the reasons. We all know your story by this time if you're a longtime listener or watcher. But when you grow up as the child of someone who immigrated here, right, that work ethic is really important. And I think as a child, though, you don't really, how much conscious thought did you have in association with that, right?
No, of course I didn't. I think of course, now we have awareness because we're older, we can process it. I don't think it was conscious that she was putting it above taking care of me, but it was more like an unconscious, desperate situation that she had to provide for the family, to the point that she would just, neglect and reject the kids because I had to do this. So it wasn't that something she was doing on purpose, but it ended up being that way for me. I felt rejected because I didn't know what was going on at that time.
Yeah. And rightly, you're a child.
Yeah.
And you want your parents to be your caretaker.
Yep.
And when they don't do the things that you expect, you're trying to process the best you can. So that's just, and I mean, there are much more strong examples of people who abuse drugs or alcohol and are not there for their children, leave them home alone.
Oh, yes.
Say horrible things to them about children being unworthy. Generationally, children are seen but not to be heard.
Yes.
And I still hear a lot of people who still are troubled by that past of having to behave a certain way, feeling like whatever their priorities were like the least of their parents' concerns.
Oh, yeah. I still remember when I was young, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, and I think I was wanting to talk to my mother. My grandmother was there, and she said, "Oh, what you have to say is not important. It's my time with your mother right now. Go play. Go play." And I remember also another thing and I remember this significantly. So when I had a daughter, I made sure that she was always my priority. And I remember my mom saying to me, why are you spending so much time with her? You need to relax. She can amuse herself. I said, no, I need to give her quality time. It's a new thing, but it's our generation really learned what quality time was. Back in the day, I don't think people knew what quality time was and how important it is.
I don't think I considered it rejection, but I do remember growing up and being expected to figure out what to do with my Saturday or basically the whole summer. I don't ever remember a time when just my mom and I would play together. Now, we did have, once we got to a certain age, like family game night once a month or so. And there were some Sunday afternoons where I can fondly remember playing Scrabble with my dad in his den. He had an office that he called his den. And happy thoughts like that. But when it came to just playing Barbies, I don't think my mom ever picked up a Barbie and played it with
I
me.
didn't even have one.
Oh.
I got chemistry sets every year. That's what I got. My cousin had all the Barbies, and I loved going to her house, and we got to get to play the Barbies. But otherwise, no. It was just a book, chemistry set. What else did I get? I got an exercise bike for Christmas from my father. Was that a hint? I don't know. But yeah.
Oh,
We can go. That'll be a whole nother episode on
yes, you can get rejected in a lot of ways. Obviously, they were not tuned in to what your wants and desires were.
Not. Oh no, you think? That's what he wanted, but yes.
Oh,
I can laugh at it now, but back in the day, I remember thinking another chemistry set.
yeah, I can't imagine it.
What about you? So you did get Barbies. Good for you.
I did get Barbies. Even I don't remember anybody playing with them besides me. I would on a rainy or a snowy day or whatever. I can remember trying to bribe my little brother into playing if we were stuck in the house. But eventually, I found friends in the neighborhood to play Barbies with.
No, did you have the dream, whatever Barbie's dream mansion? Or
I did not get the dream house. No.
What about that little van that she had?
No, I think I had a horse.
Because I did not have Barbies when my daughter was little, I got her all the extra. And I couldn't find Barbie's dream house. I don't think they sold it anymore.
I don't know.
But I did find the fun van that had music, and it had this sauna or whatever hot tub that would come off the side of it, and we were having so much fun with the Barbies. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Back to what we're here to talk about. Okay. So rejection is a formidable foe, and its impact can sneak into various aspects of our adulthood, right? Mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that it might show up in our lives as adults?
Self-esteem issues. We can definitely feel like we're unworthy, that our abilities are poor, so we're just not really confident in what we're doing because of that.
Yeah. And rejection sometimes breeds fear of rejection, right? Yeah. So sometimes one of the signs that a rejection wound might be present in your life is that you start to be super cautious or maybe even avoid situations where rejection might be possible. And that's situational, right? Fear of not being part of the group or missing out on a specific opportunity.
Absolutely. And I also think that you might not go back to an event where you were previously rejected, which is unfortunate because I think in order to get over that fear, you almost have to go back there and try again.
Yeah.
Or rewrite the outcome, think in your head like how you can, how it's going to go instead of worrying about the rejection. Think this is how it might go. And so to give yourself another chance. But yes, there's a huge fear of future rejection.
Yeah.
And also trust issues.
Trust issues. That's a big one.
Yeah, I think that people just then cannot trust that anyone's intentions are actually genuine because you're so afraid of you being rejected that you're not going to trust them. In that event, then you make them feel that they can't trust you. So it's a vicious circle also.
Yeah. And then that can also impact how you form relationships or avoid them, one or the other, right?
Yeah. Or you'll just have superficial ones. We've talked about that before because you don't get past like the person that's just going to say hello to you at the library or at the health club. But after that, they'll never try to engage you in any kind of deep conversations or really try to connect with you because they're afraid that you're going to reject them.
Yeah, yeah. So another one is perfectionism. It's another way it can manifest, right? The need to avoid that rejection sometimes translate into striving for perfections. As we know, it's almost impossible to do everything 100% right 100% of the time. And so it's an unattainable goal, and that can add stress to your life.
And I also think that along with that is then a person who is so afraid of being rejected is going to never say no to a social opportunity. I think that's also a spectrum of perfection where they can never say no. They always have to be there. And if they can't be there, they get so triggered because they feel so badly that they're going to let someone down. Yeah. So I think that's a whole nother part of that perfectionism.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So what's another one?
Isolation.
Isolation, yes.
Yes. So that's withdrawing from social interaction so that you're going to be more lonely when you're not going to interact with people. But there is the other caveat with that. There are people that are so interesting that they need less social interaction so they feel less isolated. So that's a bit of it's an interesting one. The isolation one, I just wonder about that one. What do you think?
I think it just depends. Not everyone with a rejection wound is going to have all of these signs and
Right.
symptoms. So I think it just depends on the person. I know that withdrawing from social interactions can be the trigger or
Right.
the sign, and that's because they don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to
Right.
take the risk. And taking risks is a necessary part of socializing and finding new friends.
Right.
And you can get so afraid of that rejection piece that it literally prevents you from going out, putting yourself out there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then there's also over-attachment,
Oh, yeah.
that you're just clinging too tightly to a relationship or situation. Or you might just really we have some friends that we know in one of our little groups, you know who I'm talking about. And this particular lady is very attached to another lady. And she constantly wants to sit next to her and talk to her. And if you try to sit next to her, she asks you to move and is really attached to her.
Yeah.
And she's a person who doesn't have a lot of people in her life and she lives by herself. So I think this is the person that she decided that she can
Right.
trust. So we've seen that in action.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think if you are observant, you can find a lot of those examples just right in your own social circle.
Yeah.
And the last one that I wanted to mention today is emotional distress. Feelings of sadness or anxiety or depression can even be felt more strongly because these feelings are being impacted by rejection, influencing pretty much your overall mental health. I think that's probably the most serious of all of the warning signs of a rejection wound.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So let's talk about some strategies. One is to acknowledge your feelings. It's okay to feel hurt, sad, or angry, and allow yourself to experience them. And I also think that another handy idea would be to possibly write them down. Because sometimes it's a lot more triggering to just experience them. I think writing them down might be a better way to deal with those feelings.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's definitely being self-aware is an important part to healing and knowing what's causing them and really allowing yourself to acknowledge the fact that you might have an emotional wound there that needs to be tended because we can't fix it if we don't know the problem exists. Right?
Correct. That is correct.
So another strategy is to lean on your support system. So if you have friends, talk to them and be open when you start to feel hurt or triggered in any way. Family, friends, or talk to your therapist, whoever it is that you have in your life that you can talk to. Sometimes just sharing those feelings with somebody can make a big difference because you'll get some acknowledgement from someone you trust to not be judgmental.
And some relief from stress. I think.
Relief, yes.
Some kind of, yes, I think that.
Agree wholeheartedly.
And then another one is practicing self-compassion. That is so hard. That's just, I think that I have such a hard time with it in general because I feel like I'm not doing enough or I should be doing something else. Like every day I look, you didn't work out enough. So I think that's a real tough one, but I think being kind to yourself and remembering rejection is part of life and it doesn't define your worth or your capabilities is really important. But that's a hard one. I think that's just something that has to be worked on all the time.
Yeah, I think that's one of those self-compassion, self-care, self-love. Those are things that you work on continuously.
Yes, continuously. Yes.
Chronically.
Yes,
in a good way.
Yeah.
Because we all fall and we're all going to be harder on ourselves than we need to be.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's also human nature to be pretty much most critical of yourself. When we talked about abandonment wounds, we talked about treating yourself like your best friend.
Right.
And taking that advice instead of listening to that inner voice that's always so harsh.
Yes.
Why are we so harsh with ourselves?
I feel like it's like society. And if you do find a person, which there have been a few occasions in my life when I've met someone who actually has so much compassion for themselves and they're so happy, these people. I would love to just be a little bit like that sometimes.
Right. And self-reflection will help you learn, when you start feeling a certain way, take some time and, okay, what happened that all of a sudden this feeling overcame me?
Exactly.
And under menopause.
I'll tell you that's what's going on with me because I'll have times that I'm just weepy and I know it's hormonal imbalance.
Yes. Not a wound, just hormones.
So there is that.
But it's important to be aware of that too.
Exactly.
Because you can take out those negative feelings on others without...
Yes.
Absolutely. So taking time to understand what happened, was there something that you could learn from the experience? I wanted to get that. And then again, part of that constant is personal growth.
That's right. We have to constantly focus on that. Otherwise, we're not going to get ahead in life.
Yes. Maybe personal growth is equal to self-compassion.
But yeah, I think they're very close.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, of course, we talked about engaging in self-care activities, doing things that make you feel good and bring you joy. Tennis. I love tennis. What do you like? What do you like to do?
Oh my gosh, singing is one of my biggies, and family time, and being outside, and
so many.
Swimming is my sport per se, and walking. I think walking in nature is probably one of my other favorites. My husband and I just planned an anniversary trip, so we will be going into nature up in the woods and lake shore of the state of Michigan. So that'll be nice, and it'll be a kind of a refresher, a relaxer, and just get energized again.
Oh, it's so good. It's very beneficial mentally and physically to walk in nature. They've done research on it, so that's going to be wonderful. How many years?
We got married in 2010.
Oh.
But it's 2010, 2020. But we've known each other for 20 years this year.
How wonderful. Yeah. Congratulations. I hope you have a great time.
Yeah. So 15th anniversary and 20 years together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Of course, you also should set new goals. There's a good one.
Oh.
And you just did, because you guys set a new goal.
Yes.
Take a trip and walk in nature, and redirecting your energy towards the new goals and aspirations, which helps you shift your focus and create a sense of purpose, like something to look forward to.
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
Absolutely. And then another one is to attempt to embrace the positive parts of yourself and surround yourself with positive influence. It can be uplifting, and it can help you maintain a hopeful outlook. And I think the other thing I want to say about this is, because I've witnessed this recently, and it's really hard when you're feeling down, it's really easy to find other people to sit there and be negative with you.
Yes.
And there is a time to vent and to let your emotions out, and to be angry, and to be upset, and to be sad, and to be all the things, and to feel all the feels. But when you do that for an extended period of time, and every time that you're with somebody and it's always a negative, what's wrong, this is like all the bad stuff going on, that starts to tear away at you, especially if you could be supportive, but if you're the one that's doing that, you've got to recognize that in yourself, and you've got to start finding that balance.
Yes, it does. It sucks the life out of you.
It does eventually.
Or it can. I shouldn't say it always does, but it can.
If you're constantly being triggered by everything, that's a sign. And the way to counteract that is to find something positive in your life to replace that, because it isn't healthy to always live in a state of unhappiness.
Yes.
Or discomfort or uncomfort or whatever you want to say. Frustration, that's the word. Yes.
Yeah, I think definitely your hormones, research has shown us that our hormones are triggered by a variety of things, and sadness, frustration definitely decreases the amount of serotonin in your brain, which is the chemical that keeps you at peace and balance. Which is not to say we're always happy, we're not, but it definitely affects those levels. And I think we have to be very careful about being frustrated for long periods of time.
Yes, and the opposite of that is cortisol, right?
Yep.
Because cortisol, and because that's the bad stuff, and you can get addicted to that. And we talked about that way back when with Megan DeVito, and cortisol can trigger you for other things like anxiety and a lot of other just negative
health, all kinds of health consequences.
Oh yeah,
cholesterol, excess fat in your
Yeah, so you just have to be self-aware and find these ways through some of these strategies to try to find that balance. And each one of those will chip away at that emotional wound of rejection and help you find a way to be more centered and okay with yourself, right?
Yes. And we talked about this before. Another strategy is meditation. I think that's something, there's all kinds of videos on YouTube that you can look at that would help you understand how to do simple meditations just to calm down and
Yeah.
just refocus.
Well, and relaxation, I
Yeah.
think, of any sort. Meditation might not be everybody's gig,
Yeah.
but there are other things you can do to relax. There's Tai Chi, there's
Yoga.
Yeah, you could do all the things, but spending time to really prepare yourself mentally to make changes is part of it. Focusing in on that pain 100% of the time isn't going to solve anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we kind of land at this. So I hope that you find some of our strategies helpful as you work on tending to your emotional wounds, especially the emotional wound of rejection. And I think with that, we will leave you until next week.
Yeah, have a great week.
Hey, Social Leopards, don't slink back into the jungle quite yet. We have 2 important messages to share. First, remember to like this episode, drop us a comment, and if you haven't done it yet, follow this show or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can reach us on social media. You can also email share@socialleopards.com to contact us privately. All links are in the show notes. We love and appreciate hearing from those who listen to the show.
Second, we want you to know that this show is not intended to be a replacement for professional therapy. If you are struggling or if you need to interact with another person, check out the show notes for resources. Thanks for listening.